Hello. Um, Instead of music this time, I wanted to let me turn off this AC. Kind of blasting right now. There we go. I wanted to react to like a cooking video because I love cooking too. Um, I have no credentials in cooking. I just love to cook. But that being said, I spend so much time watching cooking videos, and I've worked in a few places, and I've talked to a lot of chefs. I know a lot of great chefs myself, including my mom, including some people down here in the Low Country that have talked to me and shared some of their secrets. Um, it's fun, but this is what kind of got me into cooking was Jacques Pepin. Um, Pretty much the I don't want to say the first celebrity chef, but probably one of the first celebrity chefs out there. Before even Gordon Ramsay and stuff, because he was on TV shows in the '80s and stuff with people like Julia Child, Martin Yan, teaching people how to cook. There was actually a funny, not funny, but it's interesting, interesting that he had like a recipe in one of his shows from like the '90s where he makes like a really authentic, and I use authentic as kind of a baseline word for just like really good pho. And I'm not saying like, because everyone's version of authentic is different from neighborhood to neighborhood, so I'm not saying anything is authentic, but he makes a really good one. Um but if anything, I would say he's probably the master of eggs. And he's been on interviews where he's like, "Oh, if I was stranded on a desert island, I would be, I would take if I had like one protein or one thing I could take, it would be chickens because I could eat chickens and then eat eggs." And he's well renowned in the culinary world for his craftsmanship and, um, his ability to make the perfect French omelet and things like this. So, um, I just wanted to look at. So this is a PBS American Masters YouTube video. These are kind of stitched together, so as you can see from the chapters here, these are probably five different episodes or quick videos that are just put into one video as a compilation, which is nice. I like when they do that sometimes. So we'll just start from the first one. So this one is a fried egg, and a lot of people have different opinions on a fried egg. And we'll see what Jacques does. Hopefully that's not too loud. Turn down a little bit.
Hi, I'm Chef Jacques Pepin, and this is American Master at Home. There is nothing as simple and as good as just a fried egg. There's a way of doing it. I mean, my way of doing it.
Just to preface, I've probably watched at least a few of these before, but I don't remember them because it's been a while. This must have been at least a few years ago.
Not everyone's way, but mine. So, a tablespoon of butter in there, 2 eggs. Always break the egg on something flat like this, up to open your egg. Otherwise, when you do it on something pointed like this, it push the shell inside, often break the yolk and introduce bacteria. So something flat this way.
Okay, so I'm stopping it again, but I always crack it on a flat surface too. Not only because I feel like sometimes I get a better crack in it to where I can use like one hand if I'm doing something else. But I always follow Jacques' instructions. But Kenji Lopez Alt made a video a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, or sometime within that time frame, where he tested a lot of ways to crack eggs, and that's something that, of course, I would like to watch. And he actually liked cracking it on the side of the bowl now, whereas previously he would follow this kind of instruction, whereas to crack the egg on a flat surface, you reduce any bacterial stuff or the shell getting inside or breaking the yolk. But technically, like, you're not really, I'm assuming everything is clean. The cutting board's clean, everything is sanitized. So you're not really like, introducing like bacteria. Outside of the shell should be fine. I still like doing it on a flat surface. I think it's like the most natural for me. This is one of those like really nitpicky things that I don't think really matters in the long run. And if you go to a restaurant, certain chefs are just going to do it their own way, and you'll never know. Like, you'll never know how they crack an egg. But it's just fun to explore some of these things. In general.
So, the idea here is to do it at relatively low temperature, which is not exactly what you do in a cafeteria, because cooking it at low temperature will give you an egg with very tender egg white. And that was the idea when I was a kid. You were taught how to do it, so it was very tender, the white, no crustiness around, and cooking slowly this way. So it's very tender. So just melt the butter, and a couple of eggs will go in there. A dash of salt on top of it. The rest of the seasoning will come later. And here, now I'm going to reduce the heat to very low.
I remember this. Yeah.
And I want to cover it. I want to glaze the top of the egg. What we call oeuf miroir, a mirror, it glass on top. Sometimes to help a little bit on that, what I do, I put like a teaspoon
of water to steam it.
Around.
It's not gonna change the flavor or anything.
With the lid on tip, that creates a steam, a little bit of steam, and it will glaze the top. And that will take about
If you want more flavor, always add more butter.
It's about ready, of course. I like my eggs.
I wonder if he's gonna add like.
Of course, you can leave them longer if you don't want to have them ready. But as you can see here, the whole top is glazed. Now I need cooked very gently. Whoop, this way. And that will go onto my plate this way. I like to put cracked pepper on top here.
Some people don't like black pepper because they're like, oh, eggs are so delicate, they should only look a certain way. I love the black specks of pepper in there. It looks like I don't like a homogeneous food product. I like it just being kind of crazy sometimes. And then it looks like he's putting chives or parsley.
Maybe.
No, it's chives.
A few chives too. And here is the way I like my eggs. So you can see here that thing is still very runny. This is thick, but that egg white here is going to be very, very tender. And so
you get like a piece of toast.
And the center here,
mix it up in the. Yep.
Will be this way, just the way I like it. It's my way of doing it. Try that one. Happy cooking.
Oh yeah, this is definitely like a stitched video, just a compilation that they put together of all of his egg stuff. I'll use the Egg Master. I do remember this one a little bit.
To make scrambled eggs, my way or the classic way. I'm doing a little bit of a garnish here. You don't have to, or you can have all kind of other thing. Here I have a couple of mushrooms and a third of a cup of diced tomato that I had around. So I could saute that as a garnish to serve on top. And eggs. I have 5 eggs, 6 eggs here. Make sure you break your egg on something flat like this, rather than on something pointed like this, because it brings the shell inside and introduces bacteria very often and often break the yolk.
So again, on
so here I have
that egg point, he's still making that, which I don't know. I still like doing, but also this type of garnish, I think with a lot of eggs, eggs and tomato in general are a huge combination. So you'll see eggs and tomato in a lot of Chinese dishes. You'll see them in Middle Eastern dishes with things like shakshuka. You'll see them in things like Tex-Mex with like pico de gallo on top of omelets. So the eggs really bring a good umami to the tomatoes. Really bring good umami to the eggs. The combination is just good. And then my sister eats eggs, like scrambled eggs and rice with ketchup all the time. Or at least when we were younger. So things like that. And then mushrooms are, obviously add their own umami as well. Natural sodium, monosodium glutamate, MSG. So that's why it goes well with eggs, which is very savory. And then you actually can use less salt when seasoning the eggs because of this natural MSG. Super good. And from the start of the video, I think the scrambled eggs, if I remember the video correctly, it's been a while. Oh, sorry. I think it's more of a, that there's like a famous Gordon Ramsay video where he like makes super delicate scrambled eggs that just kind of like, it's almost like a cream. This is kind of similar style where I wouldn't say it's like a porridge, that doesn't make sense, but it's creamy, and you garnish it, and it's like soupy almost. A lot of people don't like it that way. I like mine the thick curd way, where it's still creamy, kind of similar to the Cantonese or the Chinese wampo, I think it's called, eggs, where they put like cornstarch slurry in it too to make it like kind of stay together and really see and bind together. That's my style of eggs. But this I do love over toast. So yeah.
Salt, pepper. I think I'm gonna put some a bit of chive in there.
And one thing I love about Jacques is like there's a few subreddits where they always make fun of people who can't chop chives correctly, where they want like a fine brunoise of chives, and brunoise is like the smallest possible cut you can get, and it has to be very even because they want it to cook evenly or they want it to garnish evenly. So usually that's with shallots, chives, things like that. And he's like, I'm retired, look at this shit, I'm just gonna chop it. And you'll see that in all of his videos after he's retired, when he's just cooking at home, which is great too, because also he's just using ingredients in his fridge or doing a really simple recipe. He's literally just chopping it up real quick because he ain't got time for that.
And with a fork. Now you don't want to turn this gently in the middle because it's like a wet mop. You don't go from one side to the other side to really break the white. To really break the white like that. So that I don't have any long string. Okay. Here is my
one thing I'll say, and I really missed that when he So
shell inside and introduce bacteria very often and often break the there. Very often and often break the yolk.
Yeah.
So here I have salt.
So
break the white.
when he mentioned adding seasoning, Gordon Ramsay was famous. I guess it's famous if you're like constantly online and looking at YouTube cooking videos, but he always mentioned how you should season eggs after, because if you season them beforehand, they'll mess up the eggs as they cook in the pan. But a lot of food scientists and the word gastronomy experts have done a lot of tests on this, and basically seasoning actually up to like 10 to 15 minutes after you scramble the eggs, and you season it 10-15 minutes, scramble it at the same time, and then wait for those 10 to 15 minutes. It actually makes the eggs more moist and hold together more because of how it binds the protein structures or whatever. I'm not a scientist. I actually horrible at that. But I do notice a big difference whenever I do it that way. So I wouldn't... Honestly, the difference is probably very minimal unless you're really comparing it side by side. It's like smoking a piece of meat with applewood or cherry wood. Like, do you really know? No. Maybe something heavier. But it's something to keep in mind. And also, if you're like a nerd like me, where I like to try, like, an experiment with different things, and I feel like a result is better, I get a little snobby about it and just like, just season it. It's fine. It'll be fine. Also, I feel like seasoning at the end too makes it too strong, and it like cuts to the back of your tongue, where I taste the salt first and then the egg after. So I do like seasoning in layers, which I think should be done in most cooking in general anyway. So, but it's an interesting perspective on how culinary techniques have evolved from generation to generation, even though Pepin has been here for ever, and he's still seasoning eggs during the scrambling process. So
okay, here is my tomato in there. Dash of salt. I saute it for a minute, 30 seconds too, and that basically it as a garnish. Now your eggs, of course, you would do them at the last moment, not ahead. And I like to have a sturdy pan like that to do my eggs. A good tablespoon of butter in there. The idea here is that you want to keep the creamiest possible egg. So what I do, I'm going to keep a little bit of like 2 tablespoons, a couple of tablespoons of this to add to it at the end to stop the cooking. I also may add a tablespoon of cream to do that. So this is the classic way of doing the scrambled eggs. I have a nice pan here because that pan doesn't really have any corner like that. Otherwise, you really have to go in the corner here. But this one being this way, like a bowl. And now I will start with this. Sometimes people do it classic way in a double boiler, to go slowly in the double boiler, and it's fine too. But I prefer to do it directly on the heat like that. If I feel that the heat goes too fine, I pull it out. Actually, a classic French omelette, we try to have the curl of the egg very, very smooth also. As I say, if I feel that it's going a bit fast like that, I remove it.
This is what I mentioned earlier. It was like the Gordon Ramsay episode or whatever it was, where he takes it on and off the heat. Even Marco Pierre White, uh, who taught Gordon, has an episode where he does the same thing. He kind of like shoots some shots that he's not shooting shots. Like what's the term? Like uh catching whatever. But he's kind of like Flaming Gordon, where he was just like, oh, if you have to take it off the heat and on the heat periodically, you don't understand the heat. And he's cooking in like on French oven, which is like different than just gas. Um, I think it was funny. Obviously, it's just like not true. There's several techniques to do the same thing. And I trust Pepin like with eggs. So, and then one thing, um, he mentioned was keeping the cream, like keeping the raw egg yolk, which is like you don't need to do this, especially if you're squeamish about raw eggs. But it's a cool technique. I think cream itself. Some people will add milk to their eggs. Some people add cream. I don't think it's necessary. Another technique that Kenji did also was get really, really cold butter. And again, this is a different style of egg, but get really, really cold butter and cube it really small, like a brunoise of butter, and then put it into the scramble, and then you cook it, and then it like slowly disperses all throughout, and the milk and fat solids will kind of disperse throughout and make a really nice scramble. And I assume that would work here just as well as it would work in like a thicker scrambled egg. But again, I think he's going for a very classic French scrambled egg, the one that you could pour over like a sourdough toast, or like actually dip bread in. Like you could dip bread in this and like eat it. So it's more of like it's more wet and in its consistency than fluffy, where we would think of it in other cultures.
Continue mixing it. It's going to be ready soon. See, as soon as I see the bottom of the pan like this, because there is a lot of heat in that pan which will continue cooking, so I will stop it here. And that's when I add a little bit of the egg leftover, which will cook in there and cool off my mixture. And maybe
I think Gordon used creme fraiche to stop the cooling or stop the cooking process.
That pot will keep the heat quite a lot. And that's basically it. So you serve that sometime in a bread casing, but usually it's a nice portion of egg that my wife would love. Egg like this, so she would love this. Maybe a little bit of my garnish in the center of
nice
it.
Nice piece of bread with that. And garnish on top. I put bacon in there just because I need meat. I don't know.
Happy cooking.
Also, the one thing about scrambled eggs too is just like actually eggs in general, and plating. When you plate in a cold pan like this or a cold plate, they get cold so fast. So if you're making a big breakfast for people, like sometimes we'll have family over and we'll cook on the flat top outside. So we'll do pancakes, bacon, sausage, whatever. The last thing that needs to go are eggs, because once they hit the cold plate or whatever serving device you have, even if it's like warmed in a warming oven or something, it's gonna get cold really fast. And then cold eggs are like the worst thing in the world. It's like my biggest pet peeve for breakfast. I hate like cold eggs. I mean, I'll still eat them, but yeah, they'll dry out. They'll get cold. So, but like cold tomatoes, that's fine. Cold bacon, I'll eat that every day. Um, but cold eggs are just like it's like a weird consistency and stuff. So yeah, always, literally in the last 5 to 10 minutes, make the eggs. And you want to get everybody around the table and be like, "Hey, you guys ready to eat? Oh, just kidding. Let me make the eggs real quick." And then you make the eggs. That's kind of how that's kind of how we do it all the time.